Let me introduce you to the BrainKraft product launch framework. The launch framework is the cornerstone of the BrainKraft product launch system. The launch framework isn't a single process. It's not a big checklist of things to do either. It's actually a structured collection of individual processes. Each process has a set of actions, work products, and outcomes. The first thing you notice about the launch framework are the distinct circles. An important design goal for the launch framework is to embrace the concepts of an agile organization. I wanted to avoid the mistake of being too prescriptive and too rigid, as many launch planning processes are. Circles were the obvious shape because they embody iteration and flexibility. Another design goal is to deliver a framework that expands and contracts to accommodate organizations of all different sizes and complexities. One-size-fits-all launch processes simply don't succeed. They're either too big and complex or they're too prescriptive and rigid. Donut is the term I use to represent the circles you see in the launch framework. Planning and executing a product launch takes hard work, and it isn't one simple linear process. It's a collection of processes, and these processes flow into and out of each other in an organized fashion. The donuts do a beautiful job of representing how these relationships actually intertwine. An easier way to visualize the framework is to break it up into groups of processes, or donuts. The Assess donut starts the launch planning activities. You do things like appointing a launch director and mobilizing a launch team, determining launch expectations, and assessing launch risk. Now, that information from the Assess donut helps inform launch objectives in the Objectives donut. A product launch will never be successful if success itself can't be defined. Customers are fundamental to a successful product launch. In the Customers donut, you define your ideal customer profiles. Those customer profiles lead you to the most attractive market segments. Defining and evaluating those market segments happens in this segments donut, along with buying centers, buying motivations, and buying criteria, as well as mapping buyer journeys. Market segments reveal the field of competition. In the Competitors donut, you learn about your competitors and how you're going to beat them. Now that you know your customers and your competitors, you develop the 3 activities of positioning: finding a competitive position, identifying a unique value proposition, and creating a primary message. In every product launch, there are going to be advantages and there are going to be obstacles. Advantages are those things that propel you toward your launch objectives, and obstacles are the barriers you need to remove to assure that you're going to have a successful launch. A launch plan is more than filling out a template or following a launch checklist. In the launch plan donut, you develop a winning launch strategy based on all the information that you've collected and analyzed in previous donuts. You present your launch plan to your stakeholders to gain the commitment and approval to proceed. Your launch strategy, advantages, and obstacles guide you to preparing your organization, preparing your potential customers, and preparing your partner. The Prepare donut is tightly coupled with the Launch Plan donut, but focuses on the activities and timing of readiness. In the Accelerate donut, you deliver your product to market and monitor launch performance. This gives your team the ability to adjust the launch strategy and tactics to get to your launch objectives as quickly and efficiently as possible. The Review donut rounds out the framework. Here you identify what worked, what didn't work, and how you can plan for an even better launch the next time. Between each donut, you may have noticed dots. These dots represent decision points. Use them to pause and reflect on the work completed. One example is the dot between the Objectives donut and the Customers donut. This dot represents getting commitment for launch objectives from your stakeholders. Another example is the dot between the Prepare and the Accelerate donut. This represents the traditional go, no-go decision to take your product to market and start selling it. Now, another important quality of the launch framework is it adapts to fit your organization. You can gate donuts in stages if you choose, or you can flow fluidly between donuts if that's a better option.